Madridistas, the king never dies. The king never dies. It has been an incredible night. I found it impossible to sleep. We are running out of superlatives to describe Real Madrid, this institution. This is another unbelievable, heroic performance, not a pretty one, but what Real Madrid is capable of doing, no club on earth could dream of, not even doing it once. And we do it summarily with insulting frequency. We defy everything that there is to defy. Real Madrid, I've said this before in earlier videos, Real Madrid is not a football club or even a sporting organization. Real Madrid is a value system. It is a way of life. It is an attitude towards life. It is a belief system. It is something that transcends sport itself. This was an incredible night. We have so much to discuss. Absolutely phenomenal. I want to talk about, Real Madrid as a set of values, which is incredibly important. I want to describe to you sort of what it means to me and how important everything that Real Madrid represents. We'll talk about the match as well. This was a heroic performance by everybody. A grueling but heroic performance. And then I want to talk about, the broader implications for football, because I think what happened last night is actually very, very positive. So listen, Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Madrid. Let's talk about another heroic, epic performance. In my preview, I said, I think this is going to be a historic night, and boy, was it. So welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about all this. Let's get started. All right, my beloved Madridista family, welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Listen, before we talk about last night's match, we need to talk about Real Madrid. It's so difficult to describe the magnitude of this club and what it represents and what this club is capable of doing. It is really, truly staggering, but so inspiring. I've mentioned this in other videos, especially at the beginning when I was trying to introduce, myself and the channel. Real Madrid is so much more than just a sporting institution. This club really is a set of values that really define your attitude towards life, because to do what Real Madrid does, it just requires so much depth of belief and character. I'll share this with you guys. I have two sons who are now 22 and 18 years old. And they're, of course, Madridistas, and they're socios abonados. They have owned seats at the stadium. And from a very, very young age, I introduced them to Real Madrid, and, not just the sporting aspect, but I try to explain to them, what Real Madrid represents and the values that this club represents. And, I know the club very, very well from a very young age, and I understand, the character of the club, the values and the culture of the club. But, Real Madrid is a club that it makes of the impossible something absolutely routine. The things that Real Madrid accomplishes, most clubs could never do once, much the less over and over and over. But it's a value system that, it's based on humility and sacrifice and work and determination and self-belief and just the idea of never, ever giving up, no matter what the odds or how difficult the task, this very powerful self-belief that if you fight to the end, and that nothing is impossible. And I think that these are values that are universal. And, when I look at, this channel is only 2 months old, and we already have, over 30,000 subscribers. We're in every corner of the world. And when I think about all I look at the list of countries, we're in over 100 countries. And I think about, how different, all of you are in different parts of the world, but I know that we have one thing in common, and what attracts us to this club, and I'm sure that it's what we all identify with, and what brings us together is that we all believe in these values, in sacrifice and work, and self-belief, and a commitment to winning and to giving everything every time you step on the pitch. It is really something philosophical, and I know it's something that we all share. So, a night like last night just reminds us of how inspiring this club is, and that it's so much more than a football club. It really is a philosophy of life, and just very, very, something very, very inspirational that I think we all carry. So, sorry to get sappy, but I feel this and have felt it, my entire life. And like I say, it's something I've transmitted to my sons as well. And I think this sort of attitude has helped them a lot in life as well. So, listen, I needed to get all of that out of the way. Last night was very sort of emotional and intense. But let's talk about the actual match now. This was grueling, and this was just, 120 minutes more, 130 minutes of just suffering. Now, when the match started, the first 30 minutes or so kind of were going according to plan. And for those of you that watched my preview, some of the things that I mentioned, were actually happening on the pitch. One of the things that we mentioned was that we couldn't defend too deep, that we needed to press much higher on the pitch. I mentioned that we shouldn't try to play the ball out of the back, that we should go long. When the ball gets to Lunin, we should just go long and try to recover the ball in the middle of the pitch, because it was just too risky to try to play the ball out, knowing how much the City high press had affected us. So the first 30 minutes, things were going according to plan. I think City was quite surprised, that we were pressing as high as we were. It made it very uncomfortable for them to bring the ball out. So, and then when we did recover the ball, we looked quite dangerous, which was certainly the case in the first leg. So the first 30 minutes, things were kind of going according to plan, and I thought we looked good. But of course, things started to deteriorate after about the 30th minute. Little by little, City started to take over. They started to control the ball. They started to pass very, very comfortably. We were having a very hard time getting the ball off them, and we became vulnerable. That high press was leaving gaps, behind Vini and Rodrigo and behind Jude. And City was able to move the ball forward, and that kind of naturally forced us to have to go further back, and we ended up playing the rest of the match with a low block. I would say a very, very low block. A disturbingly low block, and the rest of the match was just asphyxiating. I can't think of a better word. It was asphyxiating. We couldn't hold on to the ball we couldn't string 3 passes together. The second we recovered the ball, they were all over us. We had a very, very difficult time, retaining the ball for any meaningful period of time. They, on the other hand, were very, very comfortable territorially and with the ball, and they created chances. They didn't create, as many clear chances as maybe the possession would suggest, but they were dominant, absolutely dominant in every way. So, if you look at the statistics, possession statistics and shots on goal, it was something like 18 corner kicks and, 30-something shots on. The statistics were absolutely ridiculous. If you look at them on paper, you would just never believe that Real Madrid could have survived this. It was quite staggering. Now, as the game went on, the physical component became ever more important. And as the minutes went by, I was becoming increasingly worried that we weren't going to be able to hold on physically. Because, as you guys know, in football, defending takes a lot more energy than attacking. Because every time the ball moves, the entirety of the team that's defending needs to move, as opposed to an attack where it's much more based specifically on who's passing and who's receiving the ball. Defending takes a lot of energy. And as the minutes went by, when we were up 1-0, I was becoming very concerned about whether we could last 90 minutes defending so deep and such a high percentage of the time. And I do want to mention Pintus at this point because maybe you guys were surprised at our physical conditioning, but I mean, I was utterly shocked that we were able to play 120 minutes. At the end, Carvajal, was getting a cramp, and there was definitely fatigue. But I think Pintus has done an incredible job of keeping these players in top fitness because it was a very, very impressive performance. Okay, we need to mention players individually. This was an overall absolutely heroic performance. Now, it was ugly as hell, and let's get one thing clear. Real Madrid, 95% of the matches we play, we dominate, and we play beautiful football, and we completely dominate our opponents, and we win as a function of that. But what makes Real Madrid special is that even when we aren't the best team, even when we are suffering and we are being completely outplayed, we still win. Real Madrid has an ability to win no matter what. And it's something that, no other club in the world even comes close. We have a way of surviving the unsurvivable. It is absolutely staggering. So this was, a horrible performance. Man City they were just better. They were better on the ball. They're, physically, very strong. They press very well. They do everything really, really well. And they were the better side. But we won. And the whole point of playing is to win. And when it comes to winning, nobody comes close to Real Madrid. It is in our DNA. It is in the fabric, in every cell of our body. This is what we do. We win no matter what. Whether we play well or we don't play well, we win. And that commitment to winning is unparalleled in the world of sports. I can tell you that. I challenge anybody to find anything similar in any other sport. Okay, let's talk about some of the players individually. Lunin, I have to tell you, I don't speak Ukrainian. I wish I did, but I would apologize, Lunin. Every time I've criticized you this season, and I have on a couple of occasions, I take it all back, okay? I'm sorry. I take it all back because Lunin's performance last night showed a courage, a bravery, and a composure that I think is extraordinary. And we're talking about a goalkeeper that was second string. It's not easy to sit on the bench when you have Courtois, in front of you, as the lead goalkeeper. It must be very, very difficult. But to be called upon to play this season and to put on a performance like he did last night is truly, truly exceptional. Ancelotti in an interview was saying that, there's something magical about this. There's something magical about this shirt. And if Real Madrid over the decades, we take really good players and we turn them into Superman. Because Lunin showed such composure and confidence. He really had the performance of a lifetime. And, what he did in the penalty kicks was just phenomenal. The Bernardo Silva penalty, to know that he needed to stand still. In a subsequent interview, he mentioned that they had actually studied, of course, every single City player, and they knew that the one player that was prone to kicking it down the middle was Bernardo Silva. So again, this is a combination of an excellent management team, the manager working with the goalkeeper, the goalie manager. They were so well prepared, and then Lunin having the composure to perform the way he did. It was phenomenal. So Lunin, hats off to you. You could pretty much mention everybody. I think Carvajal had a particularly heroic night. It's very, very difficult to guard Grealish for so long because he's a very slippery player. He can cut to the inside or the outside in a split second. Very difficult to guard. But I think Carvajal played a very gritty, aggressive match with a lot of teeth and a lot of courage. And And again, physically, I mean, I don't know how he did it. He did get a cramp at the end of the match and couldn't play anymore because he left absolutely everything on the pitch. So I think Carvajal, we need to mention his performance. Rudiger, I mean, I'm running out of things to say about this guy. He's had an incredible season. He's been absolutely mission critical in everything that we've done this year. He brings so much valor and so much strength to the team, physically and in terms of morale. Once again, Haaland just didn't exist. I mean, do you know how difficult it must be to guard Haaland for 2 matches and he didn't do anything? I mean, Haaland literally did not exist. He had a couple of headers, but that's it. For the most part, Rudiger completely canceled Haaland. And, he did make a mistake in the De Bruyne goal, but that was more than made up for with his overall performance. And, of course, the courage to take that last penalty kick. He's an example of the attitude that this team has. It was, Rudiger was phenomenal. Nacho, with his physical limitations, because he's not as big as, the Tchouaménis or Rudigers of the world, but he played with a lot of spirit. He was quite speedy. I found, he did his job very, very well, and he behaved like a captain. At all times, volunteering to take a penalty in a situation like this. I think he behaved like a captain and showed a lot of leadership. And again, like everybody else, just left blood, sweat, and tears on the pitch. I need to mention Jude as well because, I've mentioned this in previous videos. I don't know how Jude can run this much. I mean, I do not know what type of training he does. I don't know what this guy eats for breakfast. But Jude chases every single ball. He does not stop running. And, towards the end of the match, when I was getting concerned that, Jude, how can you keep up this pace? Because he ran more than anybody. I think him and Fede ran more than anybody. But Jude, there was a play where he got, hit in the face, and we were kind of worried that maybe he had a concussion or something. But after that concussion, I mean, I don't know if this is like, cutting a wild animal and all of a sudden the adrenaline comes up or something. But after that injury, where we thought, he bumped his head, I don't know what happened, but he was completely revitalized. He started running again as if it were the 5th minute of the match. I mean, I have no idea how he does it, but his physical conditioning is absolutely exceptional. And then, of course, that little touch in the goal that Rodrigo scored in that play, the ball comes from I don't know how many meters, and the exquisite first touch when he just basically pops the air out of the ball with a directional first touch. It was such an elegant, beautiful, technical display. It reminded me so much of Zizou. Zidane had that wonderful first touch, and Jude has a lot of similarities with Zizou. But I think Jude, again, gave 110%. He's just a magnificent player. So I need to mention him. Then, obviously in the middle of the pitch, everybody, I think, left their heart and soul on the pitch. I do have to mention Fede and Camavinga. They worked at such an incredible rate. Fede is another one of those guys that I don't know if he has 6 or 7 lungs. I don't know how he does it, but he never looks, he's never taking deep breaths. He never looks like he's out of breath. Even after a 7-meter run, the camera goes on to Fede and he just, he's breathing normally. I don't know how he does it, but he had a fantastic match. Camavinga as well. Camavinga, was very measured. I think he played a very mature game because we were trying to avoid him getting a yellow card. So in a match like this, to be able to play 120 minutes and not get a yellow card with the defensive task that you were charged to do, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I think Camavinga showed an incredible amount of maturity in addition to his sort of physical effort. So I have to mention him as well. Now, Ancelotti, in my preview, I mentioned in the match preview that one of the things that had concerned me was that Ancelotti takes way too long to make changes. And I was getting frustrated towards the end of the match because you could tell that we needed fresh legs. I mean, we needed fresh legs. And when Brahim and Modric came on, it helped a lot, and it was very noticeable that we had a little bit more oxygen when they came in. But this should have happened earlier. It should have happened earlier. I don't know. He has a tendency to wait too long, but I think it was the right decision to bring him in. Both Brahim and Modric, I think, did very well, but I think it's just something that should have happened earlier. In one of the interviews afterwards, Ancelotti said, the only way to leave here winning was to play the way we did. So he was kind of justifying the sort of defensive posture, tactically that we played for most of the match. Now, I don't know to what extent that's true. I think we had no choice. I think City were just pushing us back, and we really had no choice. So we were I don't think this was a tactically, deliberate thing. I think we played a low block for most of the match because we had no choice. But the point is, this was a heroic defensive effort. And, it's not, we didn't play a typical Real Madrid game where we dominate and we move the ball and we create all these chances and we're technically, gifted. It wasn't one of those matches. It was a match where you had to, bite and you hang on with your teeth and your nails. And it was one where you had to focus on defending. And defending is also a part of the sport. Everybody, the glamour is always on attacking, but you also have to defend. And boy, did we defend. We defended unbelievably well. Look, it was hard to watch. I found it very painful to watch because, we were against the ropes 90% of the match. And I have to, give credit to Man City. They're a phenomenal side. But we had to defend, and we did it incredibly well. Now, I want to, mention a couple of other things just from a broader perspective. And I do have to say this. I think what happened last night is good for football, okay? Because now this is no disrespect to the players at Manchester City. I have enormous respect. I think they have so much talent, and I love those players. De Bruyne and Silva and Foden, and these guys are phenomenal. But the idea of these nation-state-owned clubs is something that really bothers me because I just don't think it's good for football. And last night, Real Madrid, we are who we are out of sporting merit, okay? And our financial resources are based on our success on the pitch, okay? And our TV rights and our merchandising, and we are the brand that we are as a function of our success over decades and decades, and we have a right to having this massive brand because we earned it. And I think to have to come up against teams that they're owned by nation states, and not just nation states, and we're talking about the wealthiest, PSG, Qatar, Man City, Abu Dhabi. I lived in Abu Dhabi for 3 years. Okay, I know the Emirates very well, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Abu Dhabi. I love Abu Dhabi, and I've been to Qatar and have a lot of respect for the Qataris, and but I just, the idea that you can just pump billions of dollars into a passion project or just a trophy project, and that no financial fair play rules are ever respected, because somebody has to explain to me how on earth City and PSG can spend all that money and nothing ever happens. We know that a lot of their contracts with sponsors, we know that they're bogus. They're just vehicles that are used to inject money into the clubs. And I think it's unfair. It's unfair that some clubs have unlimited resources that are completely disconnected from their sporting accomplishments, just for the hell of it. And that, it's not a level playing field. I think if you're a richer club, sort of, the Man Uniteds of the world, and, that's fine because they've earned it. They've earned, the brand value that they have. They earned it on the pitch. But to just magically, who was Man City 15 years ago? Right? Who were they? And you can be sure that the day Sheikh Al Mansour gets bored of this little pet project, Man City will go back to being what Man City was. And I think it's a distortion of football. I think it's really unfortunate that financial fair play rules are not implemented, because there's no point having rules if you don't enforce them. So From a football standpoint, what happened last night is incredibly positive for the sport. Okay, this was a real team with real history and real pedigree beating a financial experiment that shouldn't be in that position. So, this is a bit like the Tour de France, where one participant gets to use a motorcycle. It's just unfair. And I know that if I were a Liverpool supporter, an Arsenal supporter, I'd be pissed off because it's just, it's not fair. So I think for the sake of the sport, what happened last night was incredibly positive, and I wanted to mention that. No disrespect to the Man City players, who I really, really appreciate. But at an institutional level, I just think it's ruining the sport. Okay, just final comments. Look, the next match will be the Clásico, which I'll of course be attending at the Bernabeu this weekend. I guarantee you that the standing ovation is going to be incredible. I'm going to film it for you guys, and I'll put it in my, in a video the day after the match. But I want you guys to see it, because the standing ovation that these players are going to get when they come on the pitch against Barça this weekend is going to be breathtaking. It's going to give me goosebumps. It's going to be extraordinary. So I'll film that for you guys. Another thing maybe to mention is, if you're Bayern Munich right now, I mean, by the way, the Bayern Munich Real Madrid fixture is the most common fixture in European Cup history. Okay, we've met 26 times. I don't know why destiny keeps putting us together, but there's a lot of history in this rivalry. It's always very, very tough. They're a very tough team, especially physically. I mean, they're aggressive and very difficult, very thorny. But if you're Bayern Munich, you got to be thinking, I mean, how the hell do you beat Real Madrid? I mean, how do you beat these guys? Like, you can outplay them. It doesn't matter. They just don't lose. I mean, I think psychologically, I can't imagine anybody would want to see this anywhere near there. I mean, it's just, I think, a daunting thought just to have to play Real Madrid in the Champions League. So anyway, it'll be a fantastic tie. And of course, I'll bring you my comments and analysis through the semifinals as well. But listen, the legend grows, okay? As just when you thought the legend couldn't get any bigger, it does. Real Madrid is the most improbable, impossible entity. It's inexplicable. If Real Madrid didn't exist, we would have to make it up, because we all want to believe in heroes and magic, and Real Madrid is just inexplicable. It is inexplicable. But listen, thank you guys for listening, for subscribing to the channel and all the comments. I'm so happy to see this family continue to grow. So thank you for being with me. And what a night. Let's celebrate it for the rest of the day. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. And more than ever, a la Madrid.